What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Run Your Mouth podcast. I am here from another terrible hotel room, getting ready to catch a flight. And we're going to do an off-schedule episode here. I got my sheath hat. No one has to see my unshaven head. Bobby the Bank, shout out, sponsor of the Run Your Mouth podcast. Anyways, off schedule. Got a couple minutes here before flight, hoping to take off Wednesday. And I got to get myself out of story debt because I keep doing this thing where I want to do an episode, but I'm like, I got to include today's news. Then I keep reading, then I got too much stuff. So we're going to clear out the entire docket of old stories, and then back probably next week, Sunday or something. Maybe this weekend. I don't know. I want to take Wednesday off. Anyways, the other thing is I don't know if there's like an overpacked bag rehab, because I waste a lot of time in hotel rooms repacking bags. It's not a hobby I particularly like, but it's something I've dedicated a lifetime to, which is every night I'm in another hotel room, and the amount of time that gets wasted trying to restuff everything into a bag, because I always bring too much shit. And then last week I was like, you know what? Let's just go with a bigger bag. I get free bags anyways. Why am I doing this to myself? So who cares? I'm bringing a bag that's too big. At least I don't have to waste this much time. I can chuck everything into it. And of course, I hit some used bookstore. Great used bookstore out in Detroit. Maybe the best one I've ever been to. Bought all sorts of books. And now this bag's both overweight and overstuffed. And I wasted probably an hour this morning repacking a bag, a hotel room that I've been in for 12 hours. It's a very stupid way to live your life. Anyways, here's some of the stuff that we've got going on today's episode. First is who in the Trump organization is front-running the market. Next up, how you can check in on your crypto bro friends to make sure they're okay, not killing themselves in cars, but without getting roped into buying the one coin that's going to break out in this market. Next, we watch the Piers Morgan show, where the British Green Party politicians set out on their Women Have Penises campaign, which will both look to give them penises or take them away, whatever they need. Next, why China is wrong to leverage seek and exert export controls in response to Trump's tariffs and export controls, and how nobody has ever done anything so vile by matching moves in negotiations. Here's an important one. Why the Vatican is saying, sir, you can't pee here. And lastly, why Hamas is standing against Tony Blair, and why if you don't like him, you are siding with the terrorists. Hamas has also issued statements supporting fresh air, which makes you a terrorist if you enjoy oxygen. There you go. We got a dense episode. Like I said, we're going to have a story day here, and we got a lot to delve into. First, a couple condemnations are in order. Take a couple comments here. Episode brought to you by YoKratom.com, home of the $60 kilo. Only place in the entire world. You get a full kilo of Kratom for just $60. Don't default on that story debt. Exactly. Runaway Slav, of course you would say that usury is entirely necessary for capitalism to work. Typical coin clipper. All right, and I'm sure you should have your white nationalist nation of immigrants such as yourself who weren't actually born here advocating for a different system that doesn't include lending money, where you can have money that you've made, capital, and give it over to someone so that they could start a business, and otherwise you'd have no reason to take that risk, and those people can't start businesses. I'm sure you've got a very well thought out system here. If anyone wants to come onto the show and give me an education on why or how this system would work where there is absolutely no lending with interest, or maybe you're going with a different definition of interest rates that are too high, I will gladly have you on, and you can state your case, robsnewsroom@gmail.com. All right, a couple condemnations are in order, and then we'll get into news. We do have quite a bit of news to get into, but you know, if things irritate me, if I can't yell about them on the internet, they just fester in my soul, and then I drink too much, and then I do more hoarding on the road, where I just keep shoving more and more things into a bag. So you got to get the condemnations out and hope that maybe someone works somewhere and they hear your condemnations and then they fix the things that are upsetting you. So just one, really simple. I'd like to take a stand against hotels with double elevator systems. Nobody in the entire world ever likes waiting on elevators. It's a process that we all go through. Sometimes the elevators are down. They only got one elevator. You always got that annoying thing at the door. You're hoping you get to ride the elevator alone. Nobody likes waiting on an elevator. And hotels don't do a good enough job in a lot of places letting you know what the staircase is and just letting you use the staircase. Whoever's decided that it's fancier and that you'll feel more important if you have to go to one floor to then be on the lobby of the hotel to then wait on another hotel. You're overthinking things. Nobody feels more important having to go through a 2-elevator process. If anything, you now have people spending too much time on the rooms because it's annoying to leave the rooms, and then they're farting more in your hotel rooms. Do you want more farts in your hotel rooms? Is that what your engineers are working on? Just keep it to one elevator. It's cheaper too. It's cheaper to have one elevator versus 2 elevators. Who is making these designs with double elevator systems? Now you got to pay for 2 elevators. Got higher likelihood of elevators being out of service. And why? To bother people that they got to stand around and spend more time waiting on elevators while they stay at your hotel? I'd love to be able to interview some of the engineers who come up with these designs and just hear them out, because, I mean, they're either the world's smartest people, biggest dumbasses, or some sort of a weird mix of the two. Next is, I don't know how many of you guys engage in ordering food. I'm not big on ordering food. I find once you're hungry enough that you want the food, I'd rather be in motion, going out and getting it, than standing around and waiting for it. It just, if I'm hungry, it's too anxiety inducing. Waiting on the guy, is he going to show up? Is he going to ditch your food outdoors? The whole thing. But today, I can't be eating these crummy hotel breakfasts. At some point, you just need to actually eat real food. And I was like, all right, let's go to Seamless. And I was going to get like a bagel and eggs, all of $7. And then there's a $2 Seamless fee on top of an $8 delivery fee. Listen, I know Slav's going to hop on this and be like, you're a Jew. I ended up not ordering. I'm just sitting here hungry. I'll eat at the airport. But I feel like if the restaurant's going to do an 8, like, I understand if you're ordering like $100 worth of food, maybe it's just like a flat tip rate and it's just really not designed for if you're trying to order a single sandwich or a smaller meal, and then it's less economical to be ordering delivery. But I feel like you shouldn't have to tip on top of a delivery fee. I feel like that's a one or the other. The restaurant's making the business of selling you food, and they can even just do higher prices specifically for Seamless. Maybe that's a better way of masking the fee. And then you tip a driver, or you charge me a fee. I feel like both is some Jewy double dipping. I actually feel like they're the Jews, and that's why you need Jews like me to go, hey, you guys are being a bunch of Jews here, and this is a little bit too much. Speaking of which, am I getting charged for double elevator fees? Are the hotel rooms so expensive because of the double elevators that they installed? Because I don't need double elevators. I'm a single elevator kind of man. All right, let's get into the show. Before I do, I did just add some new porch tour dates. I actually just added a New York City date, which is at this bar called Pub Key. It used to be formerly Crow's Bar. That was actually the name of the bar, and I drink there all the time. It's a great bar. The back room's real cool. It's got a whole Bitcoin thing going on there now. So that's going to be in New York City, and that's you can go to porchtour.com. You can see all these dates because we're doing a run. It's going to be me and my buddy Menuhin headed up to Boston, New Hampshire, and Providence, Rhode Island. Next weekend, I'm with Brian McWilliams out in California. We've got 2 dates in the LA area. I believe it's Santa Monica and Hawthorne, and then Agawanga, which Fast Heart Mart, the guy from the intro, he's going to be performing on that guy. And then there's another run later in the year, Jacksonville, just landed Savannah. I'm sorry, Savannah was landed. It finally landed Charleston. That's going to be a day drinker. Added a Wednesday show, which is like 45 minutes outside of New Orleans before Skankfest. You guys can go to porchtour.com. You can check out all the dates. I think that's all the dates for the years. So go and check it out. All right, let's take a couple comments here. And then we got a whole expose of women in politics. John Popik, a Monday stream. Yeah, I'm here. Got too many stories and want to take Wednesday off. Pee in the ocean a whole bunch. That's my plans for Wednesday. Gonzo B, I agree. I may order delivery food like once a year, if that. Thank you. Runaway Slav, cook a steak with the clothes iron in the room. You know, you're coming through with some good ideas now. I've never thought of Charlie Daying lunch. There's a Walmart across the street. I should have thought of that. Could have picked up some hamburgers. I guess ran the iron over the tub. Do people actually do that? That sounds like the third world garbage that you brought to America when you migrated here, of making these hotel rooms more disgusting with your immigrant activities that otherwise are reprehensible to good, honest Americans who appreciate that people can loan at interest and we can grow our economy. Freund Lavin, howdy, Mr. Fire. Howdy back at you. John Popik, women in politics, simple episode. They suck. All right, I guess we can call it. John Popik solved it. And then Casey Hayes saying foolish. Not sure what that's in reference to. All right. Anyways, porchstore.com. Check out all the porch dates. Come out, support. Last night at Childerberg was fucking incredible. We had a great time. Wish I could have hung out there more. But let's get into it. All right. So I believe that this is from AOC, and hopefully we have sound. AOC made a statement about Stephen Miller, that he's a short individual, and she was saying that disparagingly. She was mocking the man, that although she never met him, he's like a 4'9" individual. And now, obviously, we believe in body shaming. We're going to do quite a bit of body shaming in this show. I'm, a lowly individual, and if you're going to be a public figure, that's why I like talking politics. You can be as mean as you want to politicians. They deserve it, including the body shaming, because, they're out there lording above us, stealing all of our money all the time, making policies that just keep us down, prop them up. So they deserve it, and they deserve the body shaming. So this is not my philosophy that you can't body shame people. It's AOC's philosophy. And so she got caught engaging in body shaming, which if you're going to be a nice liberal who wants to preach more socialism and stealing more of our money so the government can have more control while you're pretending like you're being nice about it, you can't engage in things like body shaming. And so here's her trying to justify the body shaming that she engaged in, and her response is so much more offensive to short people. I will talk on behalf of the shorts here and say that this response offends me more than her initial comments. Let's roll the clip. I brought the producer man on the road.
I want to express my love for the short king community. I don't believe in body shaming. I am talking about how big or small someone is on the inside. Like, for example, I have no idea how tall Andrew Tate is. No idea at all. But that guy looks to me like 5'3", like 5'3", 5'4". Whereas physically, men of smaller stature can come across, they are spiritually 6 foot. If you're a good dad, if you stand with women, if you're not.
Do you guys get how much worse this is? That being short is such a vile character trait that to AOC, you can use it as a descriptor for a person's inner spirituality, that if somebody is acting in a way that you view as reprehensible, short is a good way to characterize them. It's like the way these kids, I think they call things so Ohio, and you're like, why is that the term for something being bad? And then you spend a little time in Ohio, and you're like, all right, I guess there's not a whole lot going on here. But to her, being short is such a vile characteristic that you can even apply it to tall people's bad behavior if you're looking for a good word, because some tall person is rotten to their core, they've stolen your money, they've made a scene at a restaurant. To AOC, the word that you should use to describe their behavior is short. That is what AOC thinks of short people. Let's continue.
Belittling immigrants, you're like, 6'3", spiritually. I don't know. Am I being problematic?
Yeah. I mean, I don't care. We can bash people for their looks all that they want, but if you're trying to be the nice person here and you're trying to walk back your comments of being demeaning towards short people and saying that being short is so vile, it's the best term that you can come up with for people's disgusting behavior, I don't think you're walking yourself out of the hole. But what's nice about this is just seeing how dumb some of these liberals are. And, Kamala Harris, she backed out of running for governor of California. I was doing a joke at one point that I thought she was a great candidate because who would be better at burning down the rest of the state? But, she backed out. I guess she figured she couldn't win, or maybe she's holding out for another presidential run. It's like Brewster's Millions. She's like, I can beat spending $1.4 billion and not becoming president. If I can just get my book out and explain how it's not me and it's actually everyone else's fault, I can still make a run at this thing. Are there odds on that? Like, is it like a producer scheme where she's going to run for president again and just see if she can waste even more money doing it and somehow there's profits in losing campaigns? Has anyone made that movie yet? Like a producer's type plot, but it's just Kamala Harris running for president again? But anyways, Kamala Harris backed out, and we will engage in some definite body shaming here. And in looking at who the Democrat bench is, who else are the studs that were right in line just behind Kamala Harris that maybe we had to be nervous about coming into power, winning elections, then maybe seeing them more on the national stage, we get this lovely person. Have you guys seen this video? I thought I queued up the video where she's yelling at her staffer to get the fuck out of her shot. She's sitting there. She just has that, you know what I call this lady? The where the hell is my Snickers lady. She's the walking embodiment of the I think you need a Snickers bar, where there's like an inner very thin, beautiful, tall lady. Not a short lady, not a vile lady, but a beautiful soul. And if she just readily can have a Snickers bar before you put on television, you will get that calm, beautiful, tall presence that is on the inside of the where the hell is my Snickers bar lady. And so as the Democrats, I got to pretend like they're the nice people. First, you got this lady yelling at staff going, why the hell are you in my shot? I'm sure you guys have seen these videos. Then she also had an incident. Apparently, her husband was making her mashed potatoes, didn't put enough butter and gravy in it, so she dumped it on her head. Anyone good at AI? Get the old James Brown song, The Mashed Potatoes. Get this lady singing it, dumping potatoes on people. And then you also had this interview where, of course, Democrats cannot field follow-up questions. And even just engaging and asking simple follow-up questions, if they haven't recently had their Snickers bar, will lead to a full-on mental breakdown. And this is important to watch just to keep your perspective about what the Democratic bench looks like of, potential candidates. And here we go. Let's roll the clip.
Redistricting. What do you think of the governor's plan?
I support the governor's plan.
What do you say to the 40% of California voters who you'll need in order to win, who voted for Trump?
How would I need them in order to win?
So, well, unless you think you're going to get 60% of the vote. You think you'll get 60%? Everybody who did not vote for Trump will vote for you. That's what you're thinking.
In a general election, yes. If it is me versus a Republican, I think that I will win the people who did not vote for Trump.
What if it's you versus another Democrat?
I don't intend that to be the case.
So how do you not intend that to be the case? Are you going to ask them not to run?
No, I'm saying I'm going to build the support. I have the support already in terms of name recognition. Mm-hmm. And so I'm going to do the very best I can to make sure that we get through this primary in a really strong position. But let me be clear with you. I represented Orange County. I represented a purple area. Mm-hmm. I have stood on my own 2 feet and won Republican votes before. That's not something every candidate in this race can say. If you're from a deep blue area, if you're from LA or you're from Oakland, you don't have an experience.
But you just said you don't need those Trump voters.
Well, you asked me if I needed them to win.
So you don't think
I feel like this is unnecessarily argumentative. What is your question?
The question is the same thing I asked everybody, that this is being called the empowering voters to stop Trump's power grab. Every other candidate has answered this question. This is not argumentative.
And I said I support it.
So, and the question is, what do you say to the 40% of voters who voted for Trump?
Oh, I'm happy to say that. It's the do you need them to win part that I don't understand. I'm happy to answer the question as you have it written, and I'll answer it.
And we've also asked the other candidates, do you think you need any of those 40% of California voters to win? And you're saying, no, you don't.
No, I'm saying I'm going to try to win every vote I can. And what I'm saying to you is that...
Well, to those voters, okay, so you...
I don't want to keep doing this. I'm going to call it.
This wasn't that tough of a question for a mental breakdown. I look to represent all the constituents that are out in California, and I know that my policies will better serve them, and once they're further introduced to me, they will too back me, or whatever. It's really not that hard to spin a line. But like I said, lady, they got to feed her a Snickers before she gets on TV.
You're not going to do the interview with us?
Nope, not like this. I'm not. Not with 7 follow-ups to every single question you ask.
How dare you, journalist, ask me follow-up questions? I am here for a fluff piece, and don't film me from the side. What are you trying to do? All right, we can listen to a couple more seconds of this, and I think you guys got the breakdown.
I don't care. I don't care. I want to have a pleasant, positive conversation in which you ask me about every issue on this list. And if every question you're going to make up a...
Didn't my staff tell you to ask these specific questions so that I can give my canned response? And I already yelled at them not to be in the shot if I was messing up the response. So you do your job, which is engage in propaganda, and ask me the pre-approved questions, and then don't ask any follow-up questions because I don't know the answers, and that's going to make me look like a fat idiot. And I otherwise wouldn't look that way, and so you're being mean by asking me follow-up questions.
Follow-up question, then we're never going to get there.
Ms.
And
Porter,
we're just going to circle around.
I am an investigative
I have never
reporter.
had to do this before, ever.
You've never had to.
And it's always, this is the classic. This is what they did with the vaccine. If you're not getting this, it's because you're a crazy individual. Nobody else on earth didn't get the vaccine. I do interviews all the time. No one else asks me follow-up questions. Everyone else engages in the pre-approved propaganda that I came here for.
Have a conversation with
to end
the
an
reporter.
interview.
Okay, but every other candidate has done this.
All right. Well, in terms of stupidity, you also have Pam Bondi. I didn't watch that much of it just because I can't. I've already said it's bizarre to me to be watching these things and rooting for the Democrats that I absolutely despise. It's like this is my WWF, and I can't handle the heel turn of Republicans and the way that they're being dishonest. And I can't be sitting there rooting for Democrats. So I made the comment earlier that she basically just went out there with the strategy of, no, I'm not. That's you. You're the one who's doing that. You're the guy. That's you. You guys are the meanies. We're not the meanies. We care more about justice. You don't care about justice. I know you are, but what am I? But apparently, this lady's so stupid that she had to actually put these comebacks in writing. And I noticed it. I did notice from the little that I watched that she was referencing her piece of paper and not saying anything that sharp. And I'm like, did you write that down? But here you have it right in front of you. You guys are actually watching the episode. You can see that she had her notes there with some of these simple lines. And firstly, I just love her. I don't know. We engage in body shaming here, as I said. And I love that she's got this permanent expression of like, no, I'm not that mad. My face is just stuck this way. I over Botoxed it. Actually, the Botox stopped working, so this is now formaldehyde, which is why I look 26 in some lighting and 97-year-old vampire in other lighting. Wait, no, I'm not that mad. Just give me a second here if I could reference my note, because you say you're for this, but what you did wasn't that good either. Can you give me a second? Let me just reference my sheet here of comebacks. No, you're the hypocrite. No, Trump's good and great, and what you did wasn't good. Amazing. Didn't you guys just love the Donald Trump administration? It's good to get a refresher of, how dumb the Democrats are, but it's not like we're free and clear on the Republican side. Speaking of dumb women in politics, Latita James is now being, indicted, or a grand jury decided that they were going to prosecute her, basically lying on forms trying to get a better deal on a mortgage, which is exactly what she went after Donald Trump for. She had some lunacy line that when you get cheaper mortgages, it affects everybody else who's trying to get a mortgage and drives up there, which I don't even think that's necessarily true. If you understand fractional reserve banking, banks would like to put out as much free money as they possibly can. And if the interest rate that they give it to you is one that they think that they can make a profit and capture the spread off the cheaper interest rate from that they're able to secure, basically just handing you free money or above the, I guess the Fed funds rate. I might not have that right. But anyways, if they think that there's zero risk in lending you money and they want to give it to you at 4%, I don't think that gets in the way of somebody else's loan. But maybe I have that wrong. Anyways, Donald Trump, though, he was getting big loans from some of the most sophisticated outlets in the world. They didn't lose any money lending to him. So I think it's hard to say that they needed consumer protection from the government on loans that turned those companies a profit. But of course, she was out there saying this is reprehensible. He lied. He overinflated assets that he was putting up as collateral, and that's costing everybody else. And then caught dead to rights saying on a secondary home that was going to be her primary residence, which apparently gets you a cheaper rate on your mortgage, which I don't understand the practices well enough. I would think, well, I guess maybe if there's more of a risk if it's your secondary home of default against your income, and so they want to charge you a higher rate. But just speaking of being an idiot, firstly, going after someone for the exact activity that you've engaged in when it's in writing, you've got to be such a dumbass. And then the more time that you spend on stages yelling about how reprehensible the behavior is and why people need to be prosecuted for it when you've done it, you're being a dumbass. And then when you engaged in these behaviors that you could own this house in upstate New York, I mean, that's the cherry on the dumbass cake. Now, I don't own a home. I'm a renter in a bad apartment building. I would love to own that home. would. You can give me that home tomorrow. I will be one happy camper. Nice house, except I don't want to live in upstate New York because Broome County gave me a ticket recently, and then I had to take a 2 hours driver's ed course to get rid of that ticket. So I don't particularly like upstate New York at the moment. And I'm saying for us poor plebs, that's a nice home. But to get caught up in mortgage fraud as a politician, you would think that it's going to be, maybe there's some incredible bunker there. Maybe it's just supposed to look like some simple home, and then you go into the basement and it's extravagant mansion. Like at least Donald Trump, when he was taking on those mortgages, it was for giant high-rises and beautiful buildings. But to engage in mortgage fraud and get busted on it so that you could own this piece of shit of a secondary house, talk about being a dumbass. All right, but you guys want to make smart decisions. That's why you guys listen to the Run Your Mouth podcast, which is why I would like to recommend to you polygraph.net, which if you are doing any internet marketing in any capacity, your people, they're wasting your money, putting up ads and getting you all sorts of bot traffic, which not only wastes your money as you're paying for clicks, you're paying for leads, it also wastes your efforts because you don't get good analytics about whether or not your campaigns are driving traffic, because a lot of that traffic can be a bunch of horse shit. You got some marketer going, look, we created the greatest advertising of all time. And they're like, holy shit, look at all these leads. And then you don't actually close any of those leads. You don't figure it out till a year later. And you're like, my God, that was nothing but bots. And so if you want to make wise decisions, you want to make sure that you're being a good steward of your money or your company's money as you engage in online marketing, you got to go to polygraph.net and they can run a study for you. They do free audits, I believe, and let you know how much the traffic you got coming in is stupid bot nonsense. All right, let's take a couple comments and move on to our next story. Nomencor, she bought her copy of The Art of the Deal on Timo. Yeah, that's great. Algorithm, rah-rah Rodum party, let's have a scrotum party. You know, I love your commitment to docking. Jimmy's fed up. Wait, how does she know how the reporter's question is written? Because I'm assuming that her team gave her pre-approved questions. Algorithm, Robbie has perky nipples. I don't know that to be true, but hey, whatever turns you on. Whatever gets you excited. Anyone else having issues with the latest members only pod on Part of the Problem? You're in the wrong place for complaints about that show. All right, let's continue. Let's move on to our next topic here, which is another excellent reminder as we get a little annoyed with the Republicans, as we get a little bit annoyed with the Pam Bondis, the Kash Patels, the brushing of the Epstein under the rug, the Donald Trump and whoever in his organization's front-running markets and saying we're never trading with China again, and then 2 days later going, I didn't mean it, I love China. We're both going to get along so good. No one likes China more than me. So you have, it's amazing the favorable treatment that the illegal immigrants that came in under the Biden administration received. So that they could come to New York City, break into our cars, steal our passports, take our bags. I don't know that it was an illegal immigrant. That is bigotry. But you know what's not bigotry? It's saying that the government is not doing a good job of the roles that it's supposed to do. And so they're letting criminals run amok. And sometimes, while government's shaking us down, patting our dicks in the airport, and running us through all sorts of shenanigans, having to pay taxes, this, that, and the next thing, they seem to have a favorite class of individuals that they like to look the other way. And in the Biden administration, it was illegal immigrants. And we're starting to see some of those roosters come back to hen. And, you know, you got the problem with some of these truck drivers who are given licenses who don't know how to drive trucks. And this was a story in the New York Post of a person, an illegal immigrant, given identification from the city of New York. And the identification included, in writing, no name given. I believe that was a first name. First name was no name given. Last name shouldn't be in the country. And, you know, it's just good to remember the dumb liberal policies as we have to deal with the horrors of Donald Trump's administration and remember how much worse it could be. And then you just got to scratch your head and like, why am I always getting a hard time from cops? Why am I getting speeding tickets and this bullshit? And then illegals are coming into the country and be handing IDs that include that you can just say no name given. Then what's the point of the identification at that point? It's quite a lunacy system. And then here's another just fun one of the liberals being a bunch of idiots. This was from Zero Hedge. There was a Canadian network that was doing a reporting on this special ops team that was doing training for the Ukrainian military. And then, of course, in post, they had to blur out the guy's arm because it includes swastikas on it, which obviously you don't want to broadcast to the world that the people that were trying to fund and arm in a fight are, neo-Nazis. That's not particularly helpful to the narrative. And then speaking of fake news and taking people like me off the internet, giving us strikes and whatnot, you have mainstream media. They couldn't even figure out filming him. It was like in post, they sat there and they're like, shit, we're not supposed to be showing these swastikas. Here's a good one from Ted Cruz. I don't know enough of the details, but I like the spirit of this, that he's trying to make a new law that makes it easier to go after the United States government if the United States government influenced efforts to censor your content online. You know what? I'm going to skip this one for another episode, but it's about a professor who autisticed her way into being a lesbian. But I feel like we engaged in enough misogyny for one episode, so we'll come back to that one for another one. Rob, look at it to Happy. No name given. He was a truck driver who killed a man in a bar near me. Look it to. Oh, that guy had killed someone? It was, you might be right. Ted, Israel is my only concern, Cruz. Well, on this topic, if he's specifically trying to make it easier for you to be able to not get censored and sue the government if you were, I don't disagree with you that Ted Cruz does support Israel and makes dumb statements about Iran sitting down with Tucker Carlson. But I do think that with the TikTok purchase and other stuff, the Israel topic will probably be seeing more of the censorship effort. So I don't know that this was particularly a pro-Israel move. All right, then you had, over this past weekend, Donald Trump. Busy weekends for a politician. It's the problem with phones. He could have just been golfing with his granddaughter, showing off his wholesome Donald Trump side, and letting the granddaughter know that's a good swing, that's a this, that's a that. But when you got phones on you, you can tweet and make news all the time, and Trump loves it. Donald Trump loves making news late at night when he's up. He loves making weekend news. It's no days off with this guy. And so at first he made a statement that I guess 100% tariffs above current tariffs because of the export controls that China's doing on its precious minerals, which is something that we need from them / we need processed by them. And the markets went into a whole furry, particularly I think a lot of the altcoins got wiped out, which I guess that is somewhat the nature of being in dumb shitcoin investments of an unregulated market. There's a couple interesting things here. Firstly, once again, Trump seemed to back off this one, and 2 days later, once there was uproar in the markets, being like, no, we love China, which I don't really know the negotiating tactic of doing the most aggressive thing you can do and then instantly taking that off the table and channeling to people that they might as well try and be aggressive back because you're just being really aggressive and you might not actually hold to what you're saying. But listen, I don't understand Donald Trump's 60, 70, 10D chess. So, maybe it's one of those things where he keeps bluffing, and people are like, he's just bluffing, and then he actually holds to one of these things, and we end up in a war, I guess? I don't know. I understand how bluffing works in poker. Sometimes you try and get caught early bluffing so that people are like, oh, he's always playing it loose, but then sometimes you have a winning hand. But in this case, if the bluff is that you're going to do something really aggressive that might escalate tensions or lack of trade between countries, and then pulling through on your bluff would actually mean that, I don't really know how that strategy works. But I don't understand Donald Trump's 6D chess. I'm the idiot over here who keeps hearing about how brilliant this guy is and the wins that are going to come and how everyone's going to come back and go, Donald Trump, you're the most incredible person ever. I'm sorry I ever doubted you, and here's free stuff for the American people. I just haven't seen it yet, and I don't understand the moves, which it's my own stupidity, which is why, I just don't see it. And since I don't see it, I'm stuck here asking questions and being confused about what the moves are. All right, do you guys think someone in the Donald Trump administration is front-running the markets? Because it's interesting to me. If you could have the information of Donald Trump escalating trade tensions versus like a slight dip in the interest rate to go trade off that information, what do you think you would prefer? It seems like there's so much profits, and if Donald Trump sends out a tweet that makes it seem like something chaotic is going to happen, and then he just retracts the tweet, And in this case, I think there was a lot of money that went in on shorts just before that tweet. And I don't even know if the crypto markets are beholden to the same insider trading laws. And, I'm certainly not for more regulation. That's not the argument I'm trying to make here. I'm just saying there is something interesting about the new landscape and I guess the ability to front-run presidential information. If anything, that's a little bit a fault of the current powers of the president and the fact that he's engaging in these trade wars. Is that single individuals can send out tweets and wreak as much havoc as they did on the markets. All right, let's cover a couple more topics, and then I got to head to the airport. Ray, so are we going to World War III with China, Russia, or Iran? I thought it was going to be Venezuela. Runaway Slav, if Republicans lose voters for taking Israeli money and Democrats taking Israeli money, get their homes protected by their own voters anytime something pops off in Palestine, who is the actual bad guy? I don't know. It's quite the riddle. I don't know. I don't have an answer for you. Oh, are you trying to say it's the Jews? I just couldn't solve the riddle, but it was right in front of me. Freundleben, crypto markets are indeed beholden to the same insider trading laws. Have to disclose all my assets and trades for where I work at. All right, there you go. Jimmy's fed up. Someone made something crazy like $100 million profit on a Bitcoin short on an account created that day right before the China tweet. Doesn't sound great. Who do you guys think it is in the administration that's making the money? Well, Trump's tall, so he must be right? But he might be spiritually short. I don't really know how the AOC metrics work. All right, I already plugged that. Let's plug Sheath, and then let's do our last run of topics, which is going to be two randoms and a little bit about the situation out in Gaza. Guys, I've been a long-time shouter-outer of sheathunderwear.com. I've been squatting, and I put on some LBs, and let me tell you, I'm a full-time sheather now. My thighs cannot take a day without the sheath, the friction, the rubbing together. I got to order some more, because sometimes when you get to the end of your sheath stats, you've been on the road, and you thought you filled up your bag with everything, you find out all you're left with is your shitty old Fruit of the Looms. You got to be wearing Sheath. If you haven't upgraded your game yet, sheath.com, use promo code RYM, get 20% off the greatest underwear that's ever graced the balls of man. I promise you, not only the most comfortable underwear you'll ever own, they're high quality. I still have my original pairs, and if you got fat thighs because you're hitting the gym, you're doing some squats, believe me, you don't want those thighs rubbing together. You don't want greasy thighs. There's a better way, and all you got to do is go to sheath.com, use promo code RYM, and get yourself 20% off. So this was reported from the New York Post. Gazans join Israel in chanting Trump's name over ceasefire, Nobel Prize to Trump. And it is nice that the one thing, this could be what creates peace in the Middle East, is that both the Gazans and Israelis get together in their love for Trump, and then it expands to a full peace. Could happen. The love for Trump runs deep, especially when you see the 6D plans come true. Firstly, I just find the Nobel Peace Prize it's like hilarious to be as successful as Trump and chasing one more medal. I get it. It's fun. It's a fun little notch of badges. If you're out there and you're in the Boy Scouts and you want your badges, successful businessman, successful television person, becomes president of the United States of America, and you're like, all right, what other badges can I get? And the Nobel Peace Prize is up there. On the same note, not getting it, who really gives a shit? Just go make the fucking Trump Peace Prize and just give yourself a medal. Call the new wing, and you can display it in that new wing that you put up that's being paid for by YouTube. Or the Trump Prize for tariffs and grifting in business. Just make your own award. Just who gives a shit on this? I had a bit that I wanted to do years ago. I still should do this. If anyone wants to give me sponsor money so I could go pull this one off, I was going to create an award show, totally fake award show, called the East Village Comedy Awards. And I was just going to give awards to my friends, so earlier in comedy we could all have credits, like Best Up-and-Coming Comic from the East Village Comedy Awards. I could be the commissioner of the East Village Comedy Awards. It sounds very official. Create a website, you have an award ceremony, put out a red carpet, everyone can wear tuxedos, and then BK Chris, Menuhin, Chris Warren, Kyle Ruff, Eric, all the guys that bring out on Porch Store. I can give them awards for their honorary service to the comedy community and integrity in comedy. You can grade all awards, and then all of a sudden people can have some credits. I'm just saying, I don't know enough about the Nobel Peace Prize, but it's funny to be as accomplished as Donald Trump and just pushing for that one other thing. You can't have Obama one-upping you and getting a prize that you didn't have. And here you've got Netanyahu. Maybe this is even a fake AI image and I got suckered, but they gave him a dove, which Trump got back. Can you believe they gave me this piece of shit? Looks like Tweety Bird. This isn't a dove. I'll show you a dove. I'll show you a dove like you've never seen. I make the best doves. Doves are supposed to be white. What? This is not even real gold. The Jews, they're supposed to have gold. They can't even give me real gold. But they gave him the I guess an honorary peace prize for not getting the Nobel Peace Prize. And I just want to play these two videos and then I'll comment. Listen, I guess if he moves forward with peace in Gaza, it certainly is better than the situation that we previously had. I don't think you're going to end up with a perfect situation over there. Better academics than myself can tell you, how these people can get better, get along, who's at fault, and 2-state solutions, 3-state solutions, 9-state solutions, send them here, send them there. I don't know. Listen, this certainly seems better. And I guess we can all just hope that it goes in the right direction. I don't know what more to say about it. But there's just two things I want to call into focus. I don't like when people lie to me. And I particularly don't like it in the media landscape because sometimes it takes a lot to debunk, the lies that are being told. And sometimes you just know that the things aren't true. And so one of the things that stood out to me at the beginning of the war, and I did call it earlier that once you were seeing the horrible footage of what was going on there, Israel was going to lose public support, and that I didn't think this was a good long-term strategy for the security of Israel or the Jewish people at large to be engaging in such activities. But one of the big arguments was, Hamas is in these homes, and so we warn these residents, and that's why they're demolishing their homes. I remember that. That was at the beginning of the war, and I was like, I don't think that's a good enough reason to demolish someone's home. You live somewhere, and you get a note, hey, you got to vacate your house. They're not telling you where you got to go. That doesn't seem to me like a good enough reason to just blow up someone's home. But have you guys even, are they even still standing by that as all of these homes were destroyed? That the reason why these homes were destroyed was because, all the tunnels are still there. I think Hamas still has as many fighters as they started with. So, I mean, what is now the excuse for all of the infrastructure that was destroyed there other than to make life harder for the civilians that live out there? Because at the beginning, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe this is a false memory, but I seem to remember a lot of chatter of, there's terrorists in these buildings, and that's why we try and do everything. No one cares more about the civilian population than us, and that's why we give them warning. But did that just get dropped? Are we just, are we just letting that one slide? And then the other one is, I guess it still remains to be determined how many innocent civilians were killed in Gaza. There certainly were numbers floated at different times during what was going on over there. And you were always hearing, the health ministry likes to inflate these numbers and they're never accurate. But here's a clip from Donald Trump where at least he's running with the number of, I believe it's 67,000 people killed, 2 million people displaced, and absolute destruction of the area. And, I would like, listen, I think people probably need harsher consequences for the horrible activities that they engaged in. But for all the people that argued and pretended like these were all justified activities, the numbers were overinflated, or these homes were just destroyed because they were Hamas assets and the people were given fair warning, have we just, are we all just letting them off the hook on that? We're done with those storylines? They were never true? Anyways, I'll roll the clip.
Approval for a period of time. You have to understand, they've lost probably 60,000 people. That's a lot of retribution. They've lost 60,000 people, and the ones that are living right now were, in many cases, very young when this all started. And we are having them watch that there's not going to be big crime or some of the problems that you have when you have areas like this that have been literally demolished. You have 2 million people, and probably it'll be less than that, but you have close to 2 million people going back to buildings that have been demolished. and a lot of bad things can happen. So we want it to be safe. I think it's going to be fine.
Is Trump reporting now Hamas talking points? Is this Trump coming out as being pro-terrorist because he's going with Hamas talking points? All right, and then I got one more clip, which I'm sure all of you guys have seen it, but it was Trump saying that Netanyahu needs a pardon. I think Netanyahu's face is kind of like, dude, don't say that. That doesn't really make me look very good. Doesn't imply a level of guilt. I don't know if it's the full clip where he goes, it's just over champagne and cigars. But here, we can roll the clip.
Hey, I have an idea. Mr. President, why don't you give him a pardon? Give him a pardon. Come on. By the way, that was not in the speech, as you probably know. But I happen to like this gentleman right over here, and it just seems to make so much sense. You know, whether we like it or not, this has been one of the greatest wartime presidents. This has been one of the greatest.
We can call it on that
wartime
topic. Two more randoms, totally unrelated. But first is, I got this from Twitter account AF Post that was showing the live stream on Barry Weiss's first episode with CBS News that had 145 people watching it live. And so as she made $150 million, which would make you think that she is the greatest media asset, I don't know. What did Rogan get? $400 million for going to Spotify on a 5-year deal? And maybe this is running a whole network, and so it's not just for her on her show. But man, would you think that that's a popular lady if she's going to make $150 million to go onto network television and continue doing what she's doing? And I'm assuming that this is accurate. I couldn't then find the YouTube feed. But she did have big names on this. Apparently Hillary Clinton and Condoleezza Rice are in the picture. But, you know, as people were talking about the censorship of Donald Trump, which I did not approve of what happened with Jimmy Kimmel, let's not forget how much socialism still exists in the system, that these people are making the paychecks that they are so that they can continue to pretend to us like these people are important or that they have large audiences or that people care about what they have to say. They distort the money signal because money is a bit of an indicator of how much people are worth or how much people actually like them. And so if you give someone enough money, everyone's like, oh shit, it's like a fake line outside of a club. You're like, wow, this must be a great place. This person must be really well liked and have a lot to say. But I guess internet numbers or maybe this fake Twitter account that I'm being suckered by. And then here's the last one. I didn't have any thoughts about Bad Bunny playing the Super Bowl. I don't know who Bad Bunny is. I'm an old man. I'm an old bald man staying in Holiday Inn Expresses by the airport. I don't know of such things as Bad Bunnies. And also, the last 4 Super Bowls, I watched the first half in an airport bar, or maybe a quarter of the game, and then got on a flight back from a gig. So, doesn't really affect my life who is playing at the Super Bowl. And then, I guess there's an argument to be made that there's an international market. Bad Bunny's a big name. Maybe it brings in new eyes, or like the halftime game is specific for all the people who almost don't even watch the game, and so it makes it more of the cultural spectacle of that everyone's tuning in for the halftime show. And I still can't believe, I think at this point they're too old, but the fact that AC/DC never did the halftime show, or dig up who's left of Leonard Skinner, who's still pretending that they're Leonard Skinner. I could go for that too. There's a lot of ones out there. I preferred when the classic rock guys were in their run. They had the Stones on, they had the Who on, they had a couple of those guys on. But anyways, apparently Turning Point USA is putting on its own halftime show, which is going to include Kid Rock and Ted Nugent. I don't know most of the other names on this list. I do know Aaron Lewis. I remember Stained as a kid. They were a fun band. But that would be awesome if just enough people, because at the end of the day, it's like, give something to your core market of people. Your core market of dudes who just want to watch a football game and don't want to, whatever this Bad Bunny shenanigans is of cross-dressing. Like, Why do you gotta shove this down our throats? There was enough hack jokes or people that were upset about when all of a sudden the NFL is like talking about has everyone wearing pink out there for breast cancer, and it's like, I don't know, do prostate cancer. We're trying to come over here, you know? Like, tits are important. Not that we don't care about tits. It just seems like, well, why do we got to be feminist and women causes? Listen, I'm all for tits and healthy tits. I understand why men would be into that, but you got the guys wearing pink, and it's the same thing. It's like, why does the NFL got to go all inclusive? So anyways, hopefully Kid Rock puts on an awesome show, and hopefully it steals a whole bunch of ratings from the NFL, and maybe they don't shove more horse shit down people's throats. I won't be watching the game. That is our episode. Oh, that flyer's fake. There you go. I was suckered. You know, that's what's fun about being live, is that people can let me know that I'm being suckered. I might have been suckered on the last one. Probably suckered on some more. But there you go. I've suckered on this one. Fake flyer. I got excited. I'm not even a huge Kid Rock fan, but I was more excited for Ted Nugent. I was like, Ted Nugent in an alternative halftime show? That sounds fucking awesome. All right, here we can take a couple comments. That's our episode. Everybody, please go to porchtour.com. I'm working hard. I'm traveling these United States of America. Would like to step up my hotel game. So go to porchtour.com. Got a lot of porches coming up. Hopefully film some material at the end of the year. Put out like a half hour or something like that. And we can take some comments here. Adam Choi going, Prince was the best halftime show. You know, it's crazy, and I don't know how this is possible, but I did not know of Prince before that halftime show, and he did rock. Adam Choi, Tedeschi Trucks Band. That would fucking roll. Oh, you'll appreciate this. I don't know why, but when... listen, I used to see the Allman Brothers Band at the Beacon Theater probably twice a year, for a couple years, and they were incredible. And I'm a big fan of jam bands. I don't know why I don't love Warren Haynes, and I don't love Government Mule. All right, he's phenomenal. It doesn't grab me. The other week, I recommend this to everybody. Because I watched the Brothers Band when they played at Madison Square Garden. I didn't go, but I watched the footage, and I was like, this isn't really clicking. But then I watched Warren Haynes play in the Tedeschi Trucks Band, and they were playing those old Allman Brothers Band songs, and oh my God, was that incredible. Like, just, Warren Haynes, when he's playing with Derek Trucks, it is magic. And that backing band, I don't know enough about music to explain it. Maybe it's the horn section, or Susan Tedeschi's voice. That rips. I would love to see the Tedeschi Trucks Band with Warren Haynes playing the old Allman Brothers Band's classics, because that might be some of the best versions of those songs I ever heard. I think I've already listened to that just live recording 3 times. If you guys are fans of classic rock or jam band music, I just give that a heavy recommendation. Go listen to the version of Dreams that they did. Adam Choi, do a porch tour halftime. I'm not exactly opposed to the idea, but I don't really think live streaming during the Bad Bunny is going to give me a lot of views, or that I will have a lot to say. Extended Delta, everyone is pro tits. We don't need to see a bunch of black dudes wrestling each other in pink to show that. Yeah, all right, that's fair enough. Is Robbie headed to Skankfest New Orleans? Yes, I will absolutely be at Skankfest New Orleans. I'm looking forward to it. And I just added a Wednesday show. If you live out in New Orleans, I know some local comics are really funny, and I'm going to be doing a show on that Wednesday. It's like 45 minutes from New Orleans. Drew Zimmerman, Robbie, I still think Rogan 2028 as an independent is the correct play. What are your honest reservations to this thought? I would just like to see Thomas Massey. And that could be fun. I mean, if Rogan put together a good enough cabinet, and I guess ran on the basis of look at all these really smart people that will actually. I'm not saying he's not smart. That I want to make it clear, but I think that would be more of a. I am the marketing person. He's also a phenomenal. You could see it if you go to the mothership. That he has a personal discipline to him that he then brings to places of everything's going to run perfectly and efficiently. And so, being a good manager is one hell of a skill, and just having a winning attitude of we're going to win and everyone's going to show up to work and be disciplined, kind of what you almost imagine from General Patton in the movie Patton. So he could certainly get the smartest people around him, and probably be better than any of the other options on the table. He does still have some socialist flavor to him, but enough time with Dave, we could clean that up. And if I had to just pick one person, it would be Thomas Massey. Pickled Rick, Robbie is not gay, even if he likes jam bands. Suspicious, but not today, homo. Adam Schweit, they played over the weekend in Macomb and Clearwater last night together. Oh, were they in Clearwater? I saw that, and I'm headed to Florida tonight, and I was really annoyed that was Sunday. But I had a great time doing Childerberg, but I would have loved to have gone out there a day early and have seen that. Hey, let me know that. All right, this is over. We are done with the show. I'm headed to the airport. Got to read today's news and put together time. Later, everybody.